Okay, so hello everyone and good evening. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Phil and I'm one of the customer relations person for ChicagoDealVault. Unfortunately, we will not be joined by Hugo tonight. It's 4 a.m. to his current location today, but allow me to be your host for this evening. I would like to introduce our speakers for our webinar. We call it Remarkable Real Estate Investing Success Stories that are insanely inspiring. So our guest speakers for tonight are members of Chicago DealVault and our inner circle groups, as well as with DealVault Academy. So they have made success in their deals and in their group. So our guest speakers for tonight are, we have Mr. Jesse Arenas, Xavier Yepes, and Amy and Tony Herschel. We will give at least 15 minutes for each speaker, and then we answer the questions after all the speakers have already shared their idea and experiences in real estate. So who should start? Let me check here. Okay, let's start with Amy and Tony. I'll give the floor to, the floor to yours now.
Okay. You can
All right. Hello, Amy. Wait, Phil, did you say 15 minutes you wanted us to speak?
Yeah, you can actually at least 20 minutes maximum.
Oh, no, I don't think that's the problem. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure we have enough to fill 20 minutes. But we'll
Amy,
try.
maybe you can tell us, you can start with the story of how we started thinking that probates might be a good place to go.
Okay, well, our journey started about 2 years ago, I guess. And at first, Tony thought he was going to be interested in flipping and rehabs, and I was much more interested in buy and holds. And as time went on, I started doing what little marketing we really could do during the pandemic. We couldn't do a lot of networking. We did a little in the beginning, and then that just kind of slammed shut. We did meet one real estate agent that we've worked with continuously since then. We'd like to meet more, but again, the COVID situation just keeps keeping us at home or with very limited numbers of people. In any case, I decided kind of unilaterally that probate leads were one area of marketing that I felt most comfortable with, and I can't explain why. I guess because some of the other off-market options weren't really options. There is no foreclosure right now. There will be in the future, but it was, as soon as we started this whole thing, the mortgage moratorium was put in there. The pre-foreclosures didn't seem to make sense. And probate just is something that happens. People pass away continuously, and especially during the pandemic. I don't know if that had an effect on it or not. But I gradually developed my own method with the help of Sharon Barnholt, who has appeared on this forum several times. She also, for those of you who can't find, I actually can't find her recordings on the training on DealVault, but she is on YouTube for anybody who wants to look her up. Her name is Sharon Barnholt. And she helped me, not specifically, not one-to-one, but her presentation helped me kind of refine how I was doing the marketing. And essentially what I do step by step is that I have an Excel workbook. I have a worksheet for every month. And every month I go through and establish or write down leads for 4 counties that we are interested in. We don't particularly want to work in Cook County, so I haven't been looking there. I've been looking in DuPage County, Kane County, Will County, and what's the last one? Kendall. Thank you, Tom. Kendall counties. So I go in and every month develop a list of those 4 counties. I establish my list. I organize them by town. So I have them set up as Addison, Aurora, Bentonville, Bloomingdale, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I have the name and date of the deceased, the executor, the executor's address, and then I have a column for each mailing that I send out. And I have a series of 6 letters that I send. The first ones, they're rather, as Sharon referred to them, as fairly nurturing letters, so that it's kind of hard to know exactly how to strike a balance between being businesslike and being sympathetic and empathetic with these families who are going through this loss and now have to deal with a piece of property they probably don't want, may not even be in the same state. Often that property is filled with an enormous amount of stuff that they don't know how to dispose of. And often the property is in no condition, at least before this really hot market, and no condition to be put on the real estate market with a real estate agent. So these people who are executors or administrators, which is a very minor technical differentiation, but they are the people who are responsible for taking care of the sale of the property and the disbursement of whatever monies they get to all the heirs. They have a huge job. Even when they live, like the one success that Hugo is so proud of us, we were dealing with executors who live about a mile from the person who passed away, who is the wife's sister, the executor's sister. And they live maybe a mile, maybe 2, Tony, I'm not sure, but it's a 5 or 10 minute drive. But they themselves are not young people. It was a lot of work. It's a lot of documentation. It's working with lawyers. And then there's this big physical house and all the stuff that's filled in it. And this particular couple he has back problems, she has knee problems, and they called us a month. They'd only gotten, I think, 1 of my communications. I sent out a letter, which is kind of increasingly businesslike, every month for 6 months, and then I kind of start over again from the first month for people that still have not sold their houses. I do go through my lists monthly and scrub them. I look for each property, and I just go on Zillow or Redfin or whatever and see if it's on the market. If it's on the market, it comes off my list, because then it's just a general MLS property and we can usually ignore it. There are occasions when we have looked at MLS properties, but for the most part, I just color it a different color from all the other ones and stop mailing once it's active on the MLS. Anybody have any questions so far? That's just the list. I can tell you, or Tony can tell you about our particular property.
Yeah, so in this one case, as Amy said, they had gotten the very first letter. They liked the letter because they had been contacted by a number of people, but they said they had immediately started getting letters. Everybody was, watching this, getting the same information we were about probates, but they liked our letter and they called. And I mean, it happened to be super convenient because it was so close to our house. And I went right over and talked to them. And I talked to them for about an hour, and very little of it was really about the house. A lot of it was about them, about the late sister, about their parent, about the late sister's parents who had lived there with her. We talked about all sorts of things. We talked about medical issues. We talked about COVID. We talked about business, the business things we had done earlier in our lives, and it just formed a relationship that they came away feeling great confidence. And then I told them, and this is my own lack of confidence in myself. I rather than giving them an estimate, an offer on the spot, I said I would go home and work on the numbers and I would send them something that evening, which is what I did. And they accepted it without question. I mean, they didn't bargain, they didn't nothing. They said they liked us, and they were happy that it was, that they were selling to somebody in whom they had confidence. So they liked Amy's letter, and then they liked talking to me, and that was it. And they were ready to be done. And also, in fairness, it doesn't seem that they're in any particular financial hardship. So the money they were getting was a bonus, but was not, what they were counting on in their retirement. And so, where they really would feel they need to bargain hard for every penny. So, I mean, it was so easy and straightforward. I mean, we almost felt guilty that it was, it can't always be like this. And so far it hasn't been.
It's only happened once, but we did get quite a good deal. We have a lot of, I don't know what the percentage is, but 30%, 40% equity in the house.
We paid 182.5, without and no commissions in there, nothing. 182.5 we paid for a house that I thought at the time was worth 250, 260 maybe, which was already, I mean, I thought that, and it did need, I mean, it was in perfect physical condition. It needed updating to really be attractive because we wanted to rent it out. We wanted it to stand out from the crowd. By the time the renovation, which went slowly during COVID because supplies were short, workmen were busy, but once that work was done, it rented right away, instantly. And in the meantime, the market had been so hot. There's one across the street that's essentially identical that was put on the market for $295, and and again we paid $182.5. So we were pretty, and they sold it. The one across the street, they sold for that right away. So
how
we
much
were
did
pretty
we put
pleased.
into it? We put in close to 30.
28, maybe 28. And I mean, and we probably, in fact, we probably did more things there than we really needed to, but it made it look really nice. And and then I rented it myself. I didn't use an agent for that either. And the phone rang. I mean,
we weren't ready for the numbers of people to
call. I wasn't ready. I pressed, I pressed post it on, I did it on Zillow, I did it on Realtor.com and Apartments.com. And I mean, I had hardly pressed the button before the phone started ringing. And we had competitive bidding. And in the end, we rented it to someone whose house had been destroyed. If those of you who remember, not so long ago, there was a tornado in Naperville, and they lived a mile away, and their house was destroyed, and their insurance company was paying, and they paid us a premium. So we're getting $2,600 a month for this apartment for at least 6 months, but almost certainly a year. And I'd asked 24, and then but with the insurance and the competition, it went to 26. So I mean, we were that their bad fortune was our good fortune, but it started just because we had forged a connection with them. They liked Amy's letter, they liked talking to me, and they were ready to do business with someone they liked. And I think that's really the lesson. That it was about forging the relationship. Some of the other the questions of how much money and the rest of the situation didn't really matter because they were comfortable with us.
And also, in the end, we felt good about it because not only are we getting extra rent from the insurance company, but we're able to help this one family whose house was destroyed. I'd lived through a tornado 30 years ago or more, and I really felt for them. And they had kids, and they wanted to keep the kids in the same schools, so they were able to rent and send their kids to the same schools instead of looking around for something further afield. And the tornado itself, we felt extremely fortunate. I don't know if anybody on here remembers when the tornadoes, when was it, in May or something like that? When they hit, it was a mile from here, literally. We were so lucky. The gas station at our corner that we go to just beyond that gas station. They were already trees down and power outages, and we were super, super lucky
Right.
in our house and also in the rental home, which was even closer to where the tornado
Right.
hit. So we were very lucky, and so we're renting it so far, feeling pretty good that we're doing good for this family as well.
That's right. And I
It's
would
not
just say
that the
something
society.
I learned about the insurance companies, which I hadn't understood how this works before, but their insurance was State Farm as it happens, but there's a middleman company, and that deals with placing people who've had some kind of disaster and are out of their homes, and they will not make a commitment. The insurance company will not make a commitment for more than 6 months. Because they don't obviously want to be forced to rent an apartment when the people their clients are able to go back to their own home after it's been fixed. But in a case like this, they weren't willing to commit to more than 6 months, which is why they were willing to pay a premium, understanding that landlords don't really like that. But it was pretty clear that it was going to be a year or even more than a year before they were back. So we're getting this premium because it was 6 months and then month by month, but it's likely to come out to be a year anyway. So, I mean, and the check comes in the mail. You don't even have to worry if the tenants are creditworthy because the money comes from their insurance company. So, it's been good all around. And I think we've used our time, Amy. Wow,
Yeah,
we did that. We
yeah.
talked.
But I mean, it was consistency of marketing. I think keeping up with it, being consistent about it, and luck. Whole lot of luck and a whole lot of just person to person. Tony's so personable; he gets along with most people and just about everybody. And they just felt confident in him from the first meeting. So,
All right.
All
Right.
right.
Thank you so much, Amy and Tony, for your time
Sure.
about speaking about your probate properties and how you were able to get those deals, especially with the probate properties. Let's hear from Jesse. Hello, Jesse.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Okay, good. Hello, Phil. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. And thank you for the invite here, Phil. Honored to be on here and speak about my experiences. And I guess where should I start? We'll start from the beginning and a little bit about my career background, which puts me into real estate. I started out as a mortgage loan officer and an underwriter. I was working for a bank and a broker at the time back in the day, for 2008 foreclosure bust in 2008. Of course, I don't know how old everyone is here, but it was a trying time in the financial sector and, of course, throughout the entire economy. At around that time, 2007, let's say pre-bust, I had a couple of rental properties that I had purchased. Considering my experience, I was able to buy them. They had some relatively unique loans during that time that made everyone qualify a little more easily than your traditional way. Which allowed me, and I'll be one of the first ones to confess that I did take advantage of one of those loans, two of those loans actually, for two-unit investment properties. Unfortunately, 2008 came, the economy took a real big hit, and a lot of people suffered. I was one of those who suffered, and I had lost those two investment properties. It was really disappointing. Came to realize afterwards that the issue one of the reasons why I lost it was because being in the financial sector in my career-wise, my work did slow down and it took a hit, and I did lose my job. But I also purchased these properties wrong. meaning with the wrong numbers. I overpaid for them. I didn't put enough money down. I had an adjustable rate balloon, and prepayment penalties were very common back in the day. And so it was just a recipe for disaster. And that's exactly what happened. I ended up losing those two properties. And so after that, I was distraught. I stood in the financial sector. I went on, moved to work with Bank of America. And ironically, I worked for the modification department at Bank of America. And basically, I was a representative trying to help people keep their homes, retain their homes, and do modifications for their mortgages who had fallen behind, who wanted to retain them. I met, as you know, during my tenure there at about 3-4 years, probably over 500 folks that I helped complete an application and modify. So I did run into a lot of angry people, let's say, for the least. A lot of them were receptive. They did reach out for help, and were basically, you know, people who wanted to keep their homes. A lot of them were feeling a little scarred due to the economy, and they said, you know, the big bad banks were out to get them, and they were taking away their homes. And that wasn't necessarily the case, right? It was just, unfortunately, the bad loans. They defaulted, and you know, Wall Street here, you know, watch out, here they come. So the modification programs, you know, were created to help out the people. So there was a lot of the focus of my relationship at that job was to be empathetic with a lot of people, and that's one skill set that I learned working at that bank in the modification department, was being empathetic to people in their situations. And that brings me to what Anthony, Mr. and Mrs. Herschel were talking about with the probates. When you're talking to these people, anyone in distress with their property who is looking for an option to get out, is you have to first and foremost be empathetic to these people. You do have to listen to their story. It's really not about you, the investor, anymore. They can certainly smell a vulture, which is what I've been called a couple of times, coming in and inquiring on a property. But it's more about listening and paying attention to what their concerns are, and and trying to find out what they are truly looking for as a solution, and providing that solution. And at the end, you're always hoping that, you know, maybe, you know, something can, you know, it can be a win-win situation. So moving forward, I ended up getting involved with ChicagoDealVault and Chicago RIA, and I started learning a lot more about investing the right way. 3 years ago, I came across a mentor at the Chicago RIA, DealVault, actually Chicago RIA and DealVault. I signed up for them, and with the information that was given to me, it was pretty eye-opening, because one of the reasons why I ended up joining was because of my background, knowing what the financial numbers were to qualify for a mortgage. Hugo and Andrew, they were talking about these specific numbers and loan to values and percentages that really only the banking sector knew, or people who were very familiar with the procedures and protocols of loans and mortgages. And, you know, I ended up scratching my head, and I says, you know, they're absolutely right. That's exactly what you need to do to qualify for a mortgage. So that really caught my interest. They railed me. They railed me in immediately, and I started paying more attention. Then we started with that. I brought my son along as well with these to these meetings at ChicagoDealVault, one of the key focuses on being able to find properties is being able to, well, either there's two different ways, right? MLS, you can find something on the market, or you can find something off market. And just to tell you what I have currently acquired so far is in the last 3 years, where the first year and a half was really just a big delay, a gap, because I was a slow learner. I was really, really just I was striking out a lot, let's say. I was finding properties, but I was striking out. For the first year and a half, probably came across 5 to 7 properties that just didn't fit the criteria, and we found out that that those numbers didn't work later in the process. But I didn't give up, and that's one of the things that I always promote is motivation and consistency. Be persistent. Don't ever give up. Just continue pounding and looking for these properties, because you will end up swinging and getting a hit or a double every once in a while. So after a year and a half, I ended up finding a property. My son and I did, and it was actually no, the second one was DealVault, but the first one was in Berwyn. It was somewhat of a probate situation, but it was driving for dollars. We saw that this property was vacant, and the mail was piling up. So we sent out a letter. We tried to skip search, and there's a lot of, at the time, there's still to this day a lot of public searches that you can do to find the homeowner's email address, phone number, mailing address, and we just went to town on that information and started mailing and calling and so on. And we got a response from the administrator on that property, and they did want to sell. We ended up buying the property. We actually wholesaled that property for a $20,000 profit. We didn't lift a finger on it. It was a good property that we could have held, to begin our rental portfolio. The numbers would have been phenomenal, but at the time we didn't have any reserves in our account, or that much for that matter. I had my little 401k that I didn't want to touch. My son was involved, and he wanted a cash out. He wanted a profit. So we understood that. We came to that agreement. We found a buyer, an end buyer, and we sold it to him for a $20,000 profit. That was deal number one. The second one found through DealVault was this big, massive 3-unit building that was in Westchester. And it was by mailing letters, which is all we did. And finally, we did get a response from the homeowner, who was, it was an absentee homeowner who lived in Florida. It was an aunt whose nephew still lived in the property. Unfortunately, he had a little drug problem, and the property was really it just went to the fritz. And 2 units weren't occupied. One was occupied by him, but it was just about to, interior wise, it was about to fall down. Let's say it needed a lot of work, but the bones, it was a huge, big brick building. The bones were just phenomenal in a great area, Westchester. This homeowner had already at the time been solicited by several other investors, mailed letters, and they've been talking to. But I'll go back to my experience with the empathy part. It's very important for you to build rapport and develop that relationship with these homeowners that you're communicating with one-on-one, especially if they're obviously off-market deals, which is where you get your most profit. Develop that relationship and build that rapport. Listen to what they want. After a few months that this homeowner was considering my deal and other deals, I started out at a $210,000 offer. Found out that wasn't enough. I went down to 195, then down to 175. We finally settled at 155. It needed about 150,000 in rehab work, but the after repair value was about 450 or 480 of that. So I didn't have the experience to rehab properties at the time. I didn't have a list of contractors, and I knew that this was probably more a bigger bite than I can actually chew. So I ended up selling that, wholesaling that one too for a $20,000 profit. Third one had happened right in the beginning of the pandemic. Had a contract. We found the property, again, an off-market property. It was a tall grass. We were driving around. We saw high grass in this property, so we mailed a letter. Absentee owner. They got in touch with us. They did want to sell it, and we got it under contract. We found an end buyer, and they had offered us a $30,000 increase profit on it. The pandemic hit. The buyer ended up backing out. We got stuck with the property for quite some time. We bought it for 100. We sold it for 105. But with financing costs, we just kind of broke even. Maybe a little. We lost a little bit on that. But that was a lesson learned, and unfortunately, it was due to the pandemic, right? Since then, since last March, my son and I have been able to acquire 7 single-family properties. We have rehabbed them. We have rented them out already. These 7 properties, which includes one property that's a 4-unit property. We have 10 doors, so we have 10 doors, and we're profiting about a little over $5,000 a month just in the rents alone from those properties. And one of the ways that was even possible was that being involved with ChicagoDealVault and Chicago REIA I was able to network and connect with people who had money to lend out instead of going to your traditional bank and asking for a loan. When you do that, they're going to ask you for a down payment. They're going to check your credit, check all your financials, and forget about it. I don't qualify for that. Maybe I would have qualified for one single family home, but not as many as we have now. And working with a private lender or even a hard money lender, there's all that criteria, those regulations are out of the window. They're not expected. They're not required. So I was able to get the money, the funds to purchase the property, rehab the property, included the financing cost in the property for the 6 months holding time that I needed before I would rent out the property. And then at that time, then turn around and refinance with the traditional lender. Because once you rehab the property and put a tenant in there, then you can go to a traditional bank or a commercial lender, and they're going to take the after repair value on that. So you'll have your equity built up in there. You'll already have your rental profit coming out, but it's buying at the right numbers, right? And there's Hugo and the DealVault. They teach you what numbers you have to hit all the time, and 75% all around loan to value, and the rental DSCR they called it, which is for instance, you have 75% or $750 mortgage, principal, interest, insurance, and taxes. For example, let's say it's $750. You have to make sure that your rent that you're going to be charging is $1,000 or more. That's your 75% differential that you need to be. You need to be north of that. So buying at those numbers helped me, which I didn't do back in 2007, is going to put me in a better position now to be able to hold onto these properties and kind of weather another bust that may be coming. I personally, in my opinion, don't see another bust like 2008 coming. There may be a slight flatten in the curve coming only because of the moratorium with people losing their jobs. But the job economy is pretty strong right now. And we don't have what we used to call those predatory loans that we had back then today. That's non-existent anymore. So, and that's what hit us a lot. So buying right under the numbers that ChicagoDealVault and REIA teach you, it's almost foolproof. Puts you in a good position. So we're moving forward. We just we purchased a property in February. We decided that we're going to flip that one. We put in, we bought it for 118,000. We put in about 55,000 into it, and we just sold it 2 weeks ago for 280,000. And after cost and all that, we actually profited $84,000 off of that in a span of 7 months. So that was a good home run for us. It's a team here that we work. It's me, my son, and my wife, and it takes work. Now I know the big elephant in the room is, okay, well, how are you finding all these properties, right? It's And that's the key. Find the right property. Everything else is going to fall into place. How do you find them? It takes some elbow grease. Please don't give up. You have to do what the Herschels are doing. Go, search for the probates, mail letters, door knocking, use DealVault. Um, don't ever keep this a secret that you buy houses, that you help people in with their distress situation. You have to be public about it, because the more people know, the more will come to you. The Field of Games, that the Field of Dreams games that just happen. Build it and they will come. That's absolutely true. Follow that model. It's going to take some time, because I, with my son, with the Herschels, you mail letters, right? You're going to mail one. You're going to mail a second batch. You may not get responses. It takes probably an average of 4, 5, even 6 letters to send out to the same people. So just because they don't respond the very first time, don't get discouraged. That's part of the process, and it's a numbers game. Just stick to it, stick to it, stick to it, and you will get a response. And all it really takes is just one to get started, and you'll see that big paycheck, and that motivation enough will just push you forward, and you'll continue doing it. It's just the repetitiveness, being persistent. So we sold this property. We were excited about this $84,000 profit. We just closed on another house last week around the same area in Berwyn, and we're rehabbing to flip that one also. So with all these transactions that we've had literally in the last year and a half, although I've been involved with DealVault for 3 years in Chicago REIA, the first year and a half I bombed. I didn't have any good deals. The last year and a half, it's been, I've been getting hits. There's been some rejections, but now I'm vetting these properties a lot better. I know what to look for. I have the right contractors that I can call and give me good estimates, and it's just trial and error. You're going to fall a lot, but don't ever give up. Just keep on going. We have a few contracts, actually 2 other contracts that are signed right now. We're going to move forward, and I still currently work in the banking institution right now. I'm at the corporate and commercial loan operations department at a bank, and because of this different endeavor, this real estate pursuit that we are taking, this is going to be my ticket. This is why I work hard, to get away from the 9 to 5 and the rat race, which is what I want to do. I want to do something that I'm passionate about, and real estate is something that I'm passionate about. And what do they say? You do something that you love, you don't feel like you work a day in your life. But I didn't get a chance to check the chat room. But if there are any questions, please feel free to ask away. But that's my story.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jesse, for sharing your story, and of course, thank you as well for your experience, especially with stressing out the need of empathy in dealing with sellers. So, yeah, I will just answer the questions after. We have here from Xavier. Xavier, are you? Can you hear me? Oh, thank you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Well, hey guys. Well, how do you follow up with that after? Thank you, Jesse, for that. And 84,000, man. I'm gonna try and match that at some point. But so I'll kind of go into kind of the background for myself and how I sort of started with real estate. So I started, probably 6, 7 years ago, but it was like some people, they buy their first house to live in. And so that was kind of my first dab into real estate. My parents always did a little bit of real estate in the background. So that kind of was sort of the starting point. I bought my first house to live in Wisconsin, actually, for work. So I went to school for engineering and got a degree in electrical engineering. And so I have the 9 to 5, but real estate has always been kind of the passion and the path to kind of do that freedom of that 9 to 5. So I bought my first property. I was stationed in Wisconsin, so I bought a single family, and so I was going to live there, and I lived there for about 3 years, and I decided to move back home, which was Chicago. And so I decided that let me try and rent this property out. So I went and online, and at this point, it was everything was new. This was back in 2014, 2013. I started, thinking about going back home. Still working in the 9 to 5, and so this was all, I Googled, how to list a property to rent, and so I started dabbling in that, and there was Zillow was just coming out with some kind of marketing to rent properties out, and so I kind of used that, and then among other little websites to kind of market the property. And then I started getting, phone calls, and it was pretty overwhelming because I was also thinking about moving back home. So I was trying to figure out, how am I going to do this? How I'm going to manage it, out of state. And so it came to the point where I was like trying to manage that and manage me trying to move. So I decided to actually get a property manager. So I interviewed a few, vetted them, and again, I went online. I literally picked top property managers near, and then I put my zip code, and then I just started calling and vetting them, and so it was all kind of grassroots at that point, not knowing what really how to do it. And so I found a property manager, and they did all the screening and the vetting while I was trying to move back to Chicago. And so, to long story short, that property I still have, 6, 7 years ago now. And my first renter was there for 5 years. I just renewed a lease with a second renter a year ago, and it's a really nice area. It's Appleton, Wisconsin, and so that's kind of where I first started kind of dabbling into real estate, and that sparked a little bit of my interest into doing more and scaling, um, and so I started looking into, where else we can buy. And at this point, I was sort of a out-of-state landlord, so I never actually bought anything local. And then my parents that lived in Chicago decided to move to Texas, and so we kind of partnered and said, well, let's start looking at a property that we can kind of have for yourself, but also maybe rent out down the line. And so we started looking at Houston, and we found a property, and we bought it. And so that one, they live in, and trying to kind of start that whole thing in Texas, really kind of fueled the passion to say, I can do this. I'm looking at places out of state, networking with realtors out of state, property managers out of state. Let me try and do this. And at that time, I lived in Chicago, and moved back to Chicago. And so, I started looking at how do we do this? Me and my brother started discussing, how we can buy properties and then flip them. The big HGTV thing is buying a house and putting $100,000 in there and selling it for $500,000, right? And so lo and behold, we started looking at properties, and we ended up looking at a few bungalows in Portage Park area in Chicago, and we started looking at how we can purchase them. We found a GC through just kind of through an investor that kind of said, hey, this guy, he works a lot in the area, why don't you try him out? So At that point, we were very hungry, and we kind of bit off more than we can chew. Is really what happened. Is this was around the 2014, 2015 time frame, and we bought a brick bungalow. We actually bought two brick bungalows in the Portage Park area around the 200,000 range, and the plan was to do it big. We were planning on tearing off the roof, putting a dormer in there, and adding, doubling the square footage. So it was, a 3 bedroom, and we were planning on making it, 5, 6 bedroom house. And so putting in like 200,000, or buying it for 200,000, putting in 120,000, and trying to sell it for like 400, 500,000. And so we had two of those. So we were, at that point we were, almost 500,000 just in the properties, not even the rehab. And so we, at that point, when both properties were going at the same time, we had invested in there about, over 500,000 trying to get these projects finished. And the GC also had other projects that he was taking care of. And we jumped in, we learned a lot, and at the end of the day we made a little bit of profit. But and moving a little bit all the way forward to now, is there's some teachings, and that I've learned through some of the mentors. And Hugo is trying to scale at a reasonable pace. We literally went from 0 to 1,000 in a very short amount of time. And you learn a lot, but you also learn to fall and get up. So at the end of the day, we were able to sell both properties. We flipped them. It was a small profit. I mean, we didn't even make, like Jesse, 80,000. I mean, it was one we made, I think, 15, 20,000. And the process of actually, coordination with the GC and getting all that stuff done took over a year. It took like, I think, 15 months to finish. One property, this other one delayed, even it was 18 months. So, in that whole span to profit that little, really, was kind of a learning experience for us. But it also taught us that there are different ways of doing this. And so definitely one thing that we do now. And so that was around 2015, 2016. So at the close of 2016, I was still doing my 9 to 5 job as an engineer. And so I kind of went back to that for about 2, 3 years, kind of disheartened with that. I did learn a lot, but my position, my job was going really well in Chicago. And so I kind of focused on that. And then it was always in the back of my head. I said, this real estate thing is my ticket. And it's definitely what I want to do and how I want to retire. And then, I got into, some of the networking, the RIA clubs, and with Hugo's group, and Andrew, and started really looking at a different perspective. When my first perspective was just buying the property, putting 20% down, and then doing kind of the BRRRR strategy. But there's other avenues, there's other ways that you're able to do that, and trying to network with other lenders, as Jesse said, is there's lenders there, that individual people that will lend you the money, that you don't have to put 20% down for each property that you buy. And so that really helps you scale when you don't put so much money in there. Because even with my 9 to 5 job, my W-2, I'm limited as to how many properties I can purchase. On record, I'm renting out the Wisconsin property. I have the Texas property, and then I have my primary residence here in Chicago. So right now I have 3 under my name, and so but I'll go into that. But then I started getting into the more back into real estate in 2019, 2020, and we kind of hit the ground running after that. It's funny, I think we buy properties in twos, because just 4 months ago, about in May, we closed on 2 properties. One we're flipping in Country Club Hills, and the second one we're actually renting out. We're going to be renting it out in in September here, and that's in Park Forest. And how we acquired those deals, one was definitely in the MLS. It was an approved short sale. Um, so going back a little bit, I guess we started kind of networking more with some real estate groups, and really getting that motivation again to start again, and actually do it right this time. And so me and my fiance, started going to these groups, and really having the motivation, and really getting out there is the real thing here is trying to acquire properties, right? That's what everybody's trying to get at, and that's really one of the things that has really benefited us is networking and knowing people, and just getting out there, and really every day kind of making something happen. And so that's how we acquired these two properties. Is one was a wholesale deal, and the other one was on the MLS, like I said, a short sale. And so we bought both of them right around the May timeframe of this year, and we're close to selling the first one in Country Club Hills. We're actually gonna put it live this Friday, and so we're gonna list it, and hopefully that's gone by the end of September. We can sell that one and make a profit. And then the second one, we're actually finishing up to rent it. And for that one, I wanted to do the whole property management by myself, but we're actually leaving the country on vacation for about 3 weeks, and so I want that thing, uh, you know, rented by the time we come back. And so we're hiring, a property manager to be able to do the tenant screening, and the application, and kind of do the whole vetting process and getting that all started. So by the time that we come back, we can at least start the lease sometime in October 1st. And so yeah, so that's kind of the key is trying to network with groups like this, with Chicago Deal Vault, with Hugo's group, and trying to get out there to be able um, to wholesale deals. Is Jesse speaks about this because he's lived it, and it works for him, right? Is doing a lot of off market deals. We do look at the MLS from time to time. We're actually looking at the MLS in Texas too. We've made a bunch of offers in Texas as well. But the MLS is hot. It's a numbers game. You make the offers, but if the numbers don't work for you either, don't jump into something that's not worth your time and money. But still keep going through it. Either make offers, or pick up the phone and do, call the probates, do driving for dollars. As Jesse stated, stick with it. Had I stuck with it, after I fell in 2016, who knows where I could be. I could have a 30 unit apartment, or make 80,000 like Jesse. but but yeah, it just definitely, keep at it, keep going. If I think off market is definitely the key right now. Currently, we are doing a little bit of off market. We're partnering with somebody that's doing some cold calling. We're doing mailers. We've recently just started doing those, and so we know the value of that. And I'm like everybody else. That's the last thing I want to do. I don't like talking to people. I don't like, trying to buy their property. But either you get over that hurdle, or you just fall behind, and you're always going to just be sitting. Oh, I wish I could start. I wish I could start. And so you need to take that action and just do it. I see the value in it. Obviously, Jesse sees the value in it. Mr. and Mrs. Hersher see the value in it, is off market, but the theme here, from all three of us is take action and be consistent, and I think that helps. That even if you fall, on your behind, to get back up, and really push yourself, and you'll get there. Your batting average will definitely be improve after a while, but you'll definitely get that hit if you just stick with it. So Yeah, that's my 2 cents, and that's kind of my background a little bit.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Xavier, for sharing your experience, especially with how you started and how you got those deals. So, what I can say is that at your age and background, I'm sure you will go a long way. Now, let us open the floor for your questions. I believe we have a question in chat. Uh, Adrian has a question for Jesse. Oh yeah, Jesse was able to answer it through chat, but you can also share that you answered Jesse to our team members.
Yeah, Adrian is asking, how do you find the absentee owners, right? And that's a good question. Through the Chicago Deal Vault, you definitely can plug into the links that they have within each and every property or the list that you're producing, which is a good list, and it also gives you. Sorry about that. It also gives you additional information, which is helpful. It makes the search process just a little easier for you. There's a lot of free public sites that you can always go into and just do some generic searches, right? And I'm in Chicago. I'm in the Cook County area. That's where I look, and I have it on the website, cookcountypropertyinfo.com. It's relatively easy to use and easy to read, and it shows you where the mailing address is for that property owner on record. And that's one place where you can start. You can start sending letters there, or just Googling and doing a quick search via free sites. You really necessarily don't need to pay for anything until you want to do a deeper dive, deeper search, and that's where of course Chicago DealVault had helped us out. But we have our very first wholesale deal was more of a driving for dollars, walking around the neighborhood. And I keep on telling this to everyone that crosses my path, is that you have to have a different mindset. You have to discipline yourself. If this is something that you really want to do and you want to be successful at, you have to change your mindset and you need to turn into a real estate nerd. You always have to have real estate on your mind. Morning, noon, and night, and sleep and breathe and dream of it. Every time you walk around, drive, talk to anybody, always look around your surroundings. Look for properties. I walk my dog, and I'm always looking at each and every house, every corner I'm turning around. And if there's any indication that that property is vacant or distressed, I'm knocking on the door. I'm talking to neighbors. I'm sending letters. And you'll be surprised, completely surprised what comes out of that, especially with talking to neighbors, because they're a wealth of information. You see anybody outside, they just love to talk. People just love to talk and air out everybody else's laundry and just go along with it. And you'd be very surprised what comes out of that. I've actually gotten a deal or two out of that. I'm currently rehabbing a property in the south side of Lansing, and the very next door neighbor house that has been vacant for probably about 3 weeks since I've gone in and rehabbed the other house. While I was rehabbing it, I noticed that the ambulance had came over and carted out somebody from the home. 2 weeks later, the family had came by and they're looking around, and they saw us doing some rehab in the property, and they actually are the ones who approached us and asked about the previous owner that had lived in the property. And that just led me to ask them about what had happened to their house. Oh, what happened to the owner? They told me he passed away, unfortunately. How ironic. There I am. I'm looking to buy more properties, and they see I'm rehabbing a property, and I told them I'm in a position to purchase. So it's just about getting the network, the word out, right? You are your own business card. Make sure you voice that. Don't worry about physical business cards. I'll be honest, I ran out of those cards. I don't distribute them. But everybody knows that I'm in real estate. Everybody knows that I buy. Everybody knows that I'm a cash buyer. Come in, no nonsense. So whenever anybody crosses my path that has a property, they know I'm serious. They know I'm a serious buyer, and that's golden alone. But don't stop your search, your discipline, and just keep consistent. There's a very good book out there that I promote. I read and I love. It's The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, and that's what he emphasizes on. It's just the consistency. There's many books out there, but this is a good one. It's just continue until you gain that momentum. That's what it's about: gaining momentum and keeping that momentum. Don't let it stop. But yeah, as far as the information is concerned, Chicago Deal Vault and generic public searches can give you the absentee owner address, and you can mail letters that way.
All right.
Hey, Jesse, how you
Perfect.
doing?
Yeah.
Good.
My name is Marlon. I just got a question. Would it be best, or does it really make a difference? Should I, mail letters, or can I use Craigslist, or can I do like direct mail, or just to get started, or does it make a difference?
Well, all those avenues, all those suggestions are good ones, right? They're all they all get the word out there. You're soliciting out there. Do you want to stretch yourself so thin in the beginning with so many different avenues? Well, if you have the means to do so and the time, by all means, right? But if you want to stop and really hone in on one or a couple, that's where I would say to start. Start with, the driving around, the walking around, for dollars, that's a given, right? You're doing that you're walking around anyways, you're driving around. So you're always going to be aware of that. Mailing is definitely, one of the things that I have a high rate of return on. So I haven't tried Craigslist yet, but I do see a lot out there, and there's a lot of wholesalers in Craigslist. So getting in touch with those wholesalers and letting them know you're a cash buyer and get on their buyers list so they can send you the properties and you can vet them. And, to save yourself the time, put out a Craigslist ad saying that you buy properties, and the wholesalers will come to you. It's not necessarily homeowners that are jumping onto Craigslist per se, wanting to sell their property. But if you get, you'll get more of wholesalers jumping on there, soliciting their properties. That's a good route to go. But, direct mail is definitely a plus. And just getting the word out there, just get it out there, hone in on 2, maybe even 3 avenues. And really focus on those. Don't spread yourself way too thin and think about, I'm going to master 5 or 6 different fields, because, you'll be a jack of all trades, master of none. And you don't want to get stuck in that realm.
All right.
Right.
Thank you so much, Jesse.
Okay,
So
thanks a lot,
let's
Jesse.
answer.
I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
let's answer one more question. Do we have any other question?
Yes, I have one question.
Okay, thank you.
The website you mentioned was County, PULL.com.
Well, I primarily use Chicago DealVault, right, because it gives me a lot more information, and it's a little more accurate, and it's a one-stop shop. Let's say that, right? But the website, the public free website, is in the chat. So if you go into the chat, you can get the link there.
Thank you. I'm a member of DealVault, so thank you.
Okay, perfect. Well, then you're ready to go.
All right. Well, thank you, Jesse. So I just would have we'll have one question to our guest speakers tonight. Not really a question, just a short idea about your experience with the inner circle groups, or being a member of the inner circle group.
Well, my experience is the relationships that I'm developing here are golden. I have a new family that I consider. just the benefits that come within the inner circle are tenfold from what my investment is, and you're learning from the inner group, right? You're learning from other people with more experience, and if there's less experienced people, you can share that knowledge, and that's very satisfying for me as well. So, what's the saying is, hang around with, you want if you want to be, a certain way, hang around with, 5 people, you'll normally be the average of those 5. Well, wrap yourself around the inner circle, right? Or with, more successful people. The friends I had back 10 plus years ago, I don't talk to them much anymore, and they don't understand my mindset. I wanna progress. I want to develop. I want to move forward, and it's true what they say. Misery loves company, so be careful out there. Get into the right group.
Well, thank you, Jesse. How about Tony and Xavier?
Yeah, so the main thing about Inner Circle that I really liked is Hugo's ability to after every session he kind of gives homework to take action, and I think that's one of the key pillars. Is one of the first pillars is consistency, and in my opinion, networking, and then just taking some action. And so I think that, when we were first starting with the first couple of classes, he's starting from the basics, from, if you don't have a team, start calling around general contractors, realtors, wholesalers. There's a whole list in Chicago DealVault that you can call through. So start building your team, and really, doing those calls, because that also gets you comfortable with talking to people over the phone and explaining, what your business is, and kind of gives you ownership of that. So definitely Hugo kind of encourages and motivates you to be able to take action, even if it's a really small step, like calling 3 people today, right? And so that's definitely a key thing about the inner circle that I like.
All right, thank you, Xavier. How about Tony? Anything you would like to add?
I would say amen to all those comments. Sorry, my camera's not on. My connection is weak, and it won't do a camera right now. But I just the idea of having a sort of a family that understands what the challenges are and also how to overcome them. The constant support, the encouragement to keep going, even when things haven't been working as well as one might hope at times. That's really been important. And as we just heard about, sort of taking action, as Hugo provides, and he provides that encouragement every time. And it really isn't that hard. You just have to do it. And so, and if you feel so much better after you have done it, so the next time you see Hugo, you don't have to report that you failed, that you didn't, you really followed through. So it's been, the group has really been very helpful and is really providing support. And oh, there we go. We want you to run. There it came. I see what came on the screen. Well done. So yeah, it's been. I mean, the support, the encouragement, the access to resources, the networking, all of that's been really vital.
Perfect. All right. Well, yeah, thank you so much to our guest speakers tonight. We at Chicago DealVault is very much honored to have you guys as our guest speakers. And the strategies you mentioned, how you were able to get those deals, will surely be helpful to our members. It is inspiring to hear from someone who has the background and did it. So, especially with getting those deals. So again, I would like to congratulate every one of you for your success, and good luck on your future endeavors and future deals. We at Chicago DealVault will always back you up. So you can send any questions related to real estate to support@chicagodealvault.com, and we will definitely get back to you. I would like to also thank all of the attendees today for taking time to listen to our speakers. And I would like to also invite you to join the inner circle meeting. We have one inner circle meeting this coming Sunday at 1 p.m. That's going to be hosted by Hugo. So if you want to attend to that meeting, if you're not a member of the inner circle team, please send us an email to support@chicagodealvault.com. We will be glad to send you a link to attend to one meeting for free. Also, would like you to invite you to um, uh, avail the free trial access of Chicago Deal Vault. So on your screen right now, I am showing you what Chicago Deal Vault looks like. So we have list of MLS properties, private lenders, and all that. So if you don't have access, this is how the access is going. We will give you one free training if you have access to Chicago Deal Vault, and we will always be here to support you with your questions. So once again, I would like to thank everyone for joining tonight's webinar, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your evening for all of you. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
But it's not local.
Have a good one, Phil. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.